Hello Lone Wolves and pack members. Recently I uploaded a video on TikTok about how much I don't like Kara and Arrow's relationship, and it got some decent traction, so I figured you guys might enjoy my elaboration on why. And to be honest, they aren't the only relationship I can't stand. If I rewrote Wolfsong today, a lot of relationships shown in the movie wouldn't exist, or they would have a very different dynamic. I'll get more into that later. You're probably wondering where this deep-seated frustration of mine really came from. Well, many of you know that I wrote Wolfsong when I was 8 years old. Obviously I animated it when I was a bit older. But this was almost 20 years ago to date, and young TK didn't really know what a good relationship was supposed to look like. In fact, young TK thought the best types of relationships were those where one partner sacrificed themselves for the other. Like when Arrow jumped in and saved Kara at the end of the movie. As a youngling TK, I imagined that scene in my head a million times before I even wrote it down on paper. And sure, there are aspects of this dynamic that are romantic and selfless and hashtag relationship goals, but if the only thing holding together a relationship is one partner's willingness to die for the other one, well, it just doesn't really work. Now that I'm older and have experienced my own relationships, the only thing I see when I watch Kara and Arrow is toxicity. But they aren't the only relationship I feel this way about. There are several Wolfsong relationships that drive me absolutely crazy, and I'll explain why. But before I get into those, let's talk about the couple of the hour and how I would rewrite them if I redid the movie. Kara and Arrow. Sure, Arrow was willing to lay down his life to protect Kara and her pack, but he also screamed at her for mourning her brother. He was grumpy almost all the time, yelling at his sister, peer pressuring his pack to fight a bear that ended up seriously wounding Damien, who's an old man, may I add, and then pressuring Damien to give him control of the pack. I didn't mean to write it this way, but the sequencing makes it feel like Arrow got Damien hurt on purpose and then surpassed him while he was wounded. This isn't canon, of course, but it surely feels like that's what happened in the scene. And then you have Kara. I wouldn't say she's toxic, but she does have literally no personality. In fact, she comes off as that female trope where she isn't anything special, but everyone thinks she's so cool and pretty and popular. She's basically Bella from Twilight, but 30% less interesting. Her only defining traits are sarcastic comments, and that one time she threatened a soldier by bringing up the Human Centipede movie. Don't believe me?
We're looking for a stone. We know the Death Outlet has it here. You can either tell us where it is or, well, let's put it this way. Have you boys ever seen a movie called The Human Centipede?
Holy!
Yeah, that happened. I thank God every day I cut that part out. As I mentioned in my TikTok video, what really makes this relationship awful is how Arrow treats Kara, and how Kara doesn't really mind it. She just kind of rolls with the punches and is like, yeah, I kind of deserve that. Someone even commented on my TikTok that Wolfsong gave them the wrong idea of what a relationship should be, so they ended up getting stuck with the wrong people. That honestly breaks my heart. That sucks. When people ask me what I would change, Kara and Arrow's relationship is at the top of the list. I just hate it so much. So how would I rewrite them? Disclaimer, if I actually rewrote these characters, I would probably put a lot more thought into it than this. The stuff I'm about to say is just my first thought. So, how would I change them? Well, Arrow himself is a lot to unpack. He has a ton of trauma from his pack getting invaded by the Death Alpha, his family getting killed, and his sister getting injured. He also had to grow up fast while making sure Yasmin didn't die. And Kara has daddy issues, I guess? There's a lot of ways I could fix them, but here's the easiest. First of all, Kara needs to be a pure of heart by character, not just title. She would need a total rewrite with attributes that back up the fact that she's a pure of heart. If I even went that route, because if I wrote the story now, I probably wouldn't. Anyways, the dynamic I would go for is hopefulness versus hopelessness. Arrow is hopeless due to his past. When things go wrong, he gets into a bad headspace and negative mode turns on. But Kara represents hopefulness. Her life has been full of love and fun, and there hasn't been a lot of bad in it. To make this work, the beginning of the story would shift. Instead of Kara running away from home, she would actually just be a wolf, not a dog. Damien would have raised her and her brother, and I have an idea of how this would pan out, but that's not relevant, so I'm gonna skip it. Meanwhile, Arrow's backstory could stay basically the same. His pack was invaded, and he escaped with his sister. He soon ran into Damien's pack and decided shortly after to stay. Kara and Arrow meet when they're puppies, and they grow up together, creating a genuine bond over time. Now for their relationship. At the beginning of the movie, Kara and Arrow would just be friends. Very good friends actually, but nothing more. The movie would probably start out with Alador getting taken away by the Death Alpha. Kara's immediate reaction would be to go save him, but Arrow thinks Alador is already dead and there's just no point. Of course Kara goes anyways because she feels there's hope and it's the right thing to do. Arrow disagrees but supports her. Maybe he'll even be like, it's not gonna work, you're on your own. Then Kara could go, get into trouble, and Arrow comes along and helps her in the nick of time. I don't know, it isn't perfect, but it's better than this BS.
Stop feeling sorry for yourself and stand up!
Sure, they can have fights, sure they can make mistakes and be mean to each other, but they'll always come back together stronger. Not to mention, they'll like each other in a way that isn't random. Out of the list of relationships I plan on adding to this video, I have to say Lightning and Raina are my favorite. That said, there's a lot about the pairing I'm not a big fan of. These two are highly competitive throughout the entire story. There's something about Lightning that makes Raina just want to kick him in the balls and take over his throne, and she kinda does, but Lightning doesn't just roll over and let her do it either. He fights back, which is is not a normal reaction males normally have when they go up against Raina, and even though Raina is a lower rank in a competing pack, there isn't any type of power dynamic between the two. They feel very equally matched in fighting ability and the level of respect they get with their immediate pack mates. That said, the poorly written way Raina is introduced to the main pack could use the most work. Zar, Raina, Balder, and Brendan show up to scope out the land and they run into Damien's territory. After a quick skirmish, Damien's pack defeats Zar's pack. And in the midst of Alador versus Zar, Alador saves him from getting bitten by a snake. This one act of kindness makes Zar want to switch sides. Ugh. Sorry guys, that's how much I hate that transition. Moving on, Zar and his two brothers automatically switch for some unknown reason. No, seriously, someone explained that to me. But Raina doesn't actually switch over. Later on, she's shown crawling back to her dad and nearly killing Lightning, but she decides not to because she just realized she likes him back, and all of a sudden that makes killing him not okay. Why did I write you like this? Anyways, the reveal of Raina's feelings makes everyone embarrassed, and Raina gets thrown into a hole while the others get the ever-loving shit beat out of them. Raina and Lightning are weird around each other for the rest of the movie, and it's never really mentioned again. But there is this scene where Raina lets her sisters run away in the middle of war, and Lightning's over here like, really? Really, bitch? So the reason I bring all of this up is me wanting to point out the main problem with this pairing, the plot. That's it, I swear. The couple is great, they just need a better plot that made sense. Their decisions needed to make more sense, but honestly, the way they act around each other as it is makes a ton of sense when you consider how they're constantly competing with each other. And this type of couple works out well in other media too. So how would I rewrite this? Again, if I actually rewrote them, I would put a lot more thought into this, but from a high up level, I think this just needs to be simplified a lot. Raina could still be the Death Alpha's daughter, but instead of her coming over with Zar, she would have run away from home, alone. She didn't like how she was being treated, and she didn't agree with her dad. Side note, Zar, Balder, and Brendan probably wouldn't exist, but that's okay because I have too many characters anyways. After she runs away, she could stumble into Damien's pack, who recognizes her as the Death Alpha's daughter. Since she probably has a lot of information they could get from her, they decide to take her prisoner instead of killing her. From here on out, she slowly but surely will show that she has no intentions of going back home, but she will have to deal with the biases the others have of her species, most of all from Lightning, who heavily generalizes her for being a hellhound. Raina is annoyed with his judgments, so she sets out to prove that she's better at his job than he is, which is where their competitive dynamic would continue forward. In this version, Raina would never try to turn the others over to her father, but she would probably still be questioned by him in the same way, because I want to keep that part, and then she would get locked up and the others would get attacked, yeah. This is where their relationship would change for the better though. At this point, Lightning should trust her more and their relationship would have progressed from enemies to friends. This is likely where they would stay until the end of the movie when Raina let Mia and May run away. Instead of Lightning becoming even more skeptical of this, he's impressed. Raina doesn't want to kill, not even wolves that she hates. That's super different from any other hellhound he's ever met. At this point, he would probably ask her to stay with their pack. With him. She would probably say something snarky like, psh, you should date within your own species. At which point he would say that they are the same to show that he grew out of his own biases against her species. Or some corny bullshit like that, I don't know. But out of everything they still argue about, the TourBox Neo is not one of them. They're in agreement that this little animation tool is a must-have for any creator. In fact, we still have 3 relationships to go, but luckily drawing myself as a cartoon and editing together this video just got a lot more efficient with the TourBox Neo. If you've never heard of it before, it's basically a remote control for creators. It has a ton of buttons and dials that can be fully customized with any short keys that you want. I've been using this baby for a little over a week, and now I can't draw without it. Switching from my brush to my eraser is so much faster, and when I need to switch colors, it's like 4 less steps. Not to mention how much easier it is to zoom in and out of my canvas. It's like my entire drawing workflow has been sped up times 10. I'll be posting another video all about the TourBox Neo soon, and when it's live, I'll add it as a card here for you to check it out. Let's get back to the video. Alright, Chance and Melody. Jeez, I hate them so much. This has to be my least favorite couple, so let's get this over with. Chance is the comic relief character, but he's also misogynistic and a huge coward. He's the kind of guy that hits on anyone as long as they're a girl with a heartbeat. And he makes so many comments that girls are weaker than boys, etc, etc. It's actually pretty gross. He also does something in the final war that really gets under my skin. It feels so sexually aggressive and unnecessary, and I hate it. Not to mention that he does this like 2 minutes after Arrow gets his throat ripped out, which feels very misplaced. As for Melody, she just feels unnecessary as a character. She's kind of bossy and grumpy and likes to belittle people for their low intelligence, even though they don't have low intelligence. She's just this one-dimensional catty character that doesn't even need to be there. It makes sense that Chance would like her, but as I mentioned earlier in a TikTok video, I don't understand why Melody has to like him back. Which she does. I added scenes that prove it. But if Melody was a real person, or wolf, I don't think she would like Chance at all. In fact, her feministic mentality would be repulsed by his sexist jokes and comments. So how would I rewrite them? First of all, they would only be friends, and not even starting out. Near the beginning of the movie, Melody would not like Chance at all, romantically or platonically. This would likely give Chance a reason to grow past his misogynistic opinions, and he would change for the better, at least a little bit. Though deep down, he'd still be a huge player, but in the end, no matter how much Chance grows, he would never end up in any relationship. There you go, Melody, consider the bullet dodged. Ooh, now we get to talk about the two cute kids and their crushes, Alador and Onora. Honestly, this would have been cute if it was more developed, but as it's written originally, there are only slight inklings they liked each other near the beginning of the movie. Onora was even concerned for Alador when he was bitten by the snake, but before anything happened between the two, Alador was taken away and killed. And while there were only the beginnings of something there, Onora was still very upset that her friend died. And it's a real shame too, because out of all the relationships this story has, this one is probably the most innocent and sweet. Now, I know what most of you are thinking. Is this puppy Alador's son? I see this question everywhere, and I'm not exaggerating. This is a question I really don't want to answer because it is linked to spoilers. If I ever do decide to create a second wolf song, the answer to this question is a very important part of the plot, so I just can't answer it. I'm sorry, guys. So how would I rewrite Alador and Onora? As cute as they are, I would probably kill this relationship at the roots. They're both the youngest members of the pack, and honestly, they were probably a little too young to have any interest in romance. They would be great friends though, and I would definitely give their friendship more screen time before they got separated. Do you guys have a few minutes to talk about old people love? You do? Okay, cool. Damien and Hartanna. Alphas of the pack of loners and infamous for adopting random pups that need someone to look after them. Damien is the heart of the pack. He makes all the tough decisions while keeping everyone safe and alive. That's how I wanted him to be perceived. But after rewatching the movie recently, he's just this bossy grump that doesn't have very much substance, and maybe this is due to the small amount of screen time he actually got. We do get a nice segue into his backstory. Falls in love with Kara and Alador's mom, has puppies, they break up, then he falls in love with Hartanna. Yeah, she's a total rebound. But Hartanna doesn't seem to mind it, not even when Damien's father scars Damien and then kicks them both out of his territory. Makes you wonder, who's Damien's dad and why was he so against Hartanna? Do you think he knew about her little secret superpower? Huh? Nah, honestly, I don't know. He probably got a bad feeling from her or something, since she's evil incarnate. Hartanna is a literal bear in wolf's clothing. She's not really here for Damien or the pack, and we see by the end of the movie she has much more sinister intentions. And while I do have more information on her, who she is, what she is, and her motivation, I'm afraid that might be spoilers for a second wolf song, should I ever make one. So again, I just can't answer that question. Sorry, guys. But as for their relationship, this one seems to be the most healthy and stable. Makes sense considering how long they've been together, even though their PDA is vomit-inducing to the rest of the pack, especially Lightning. So how would I rewrite them? I feel similarly about this relationship the way I do with Lightning and Raina's relationship. They just kinda work. Honestly, I would do a full overhaul of the entire plot so these characters have more room to breathe and really be themselves. This would include the plot of Damien and Hartanna raising Kara and Alador, which would also give Kara a mother figure that definitely won't betray her. Jeez, I don't know why I just want Kara to suffer. Maybe I still have some growing to do. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think of these relationships, if you agree or disagree with my rewrites, and of course, which one is your favorite. I'm actually growing pretty fond of talking about this movie, so if you guys want to see more opinions on Wolfsong and maybe even other animated movies, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to catch all my future videos. Until next time, see ya, packmates.